And joining us live in the Triple J studio right now from Parliament House is MP Joel Fitzgibbon. He's an MP with the government. He's Labor's Chief Government Whip in the lower house, and we're very happy to have you on Triple J this afternoon. How's it going, Joel?
Pretty busy here, Soph, but good to be with you.
I can imagine now. The independent MP Andrew Wilkie says he won't support these media reform laws. Does this mean that the reforms are now dead, Joel?
Well, of course, the reforms, Soph, have many aspects. It's quite a complex piece of legislation, or I should say pieces of legislation. There are more than one. In fact, there are 6 bills. The negotiations are continuing. We've already passed 2 of the bills. The outstanding matters go, just to sort of dumb it down a bit, just go to diversity, or if you like, the ability for media organisations to merge or to buy one another up. And, of course, the changes to the regulation of standards, the way we regulate organisations like the Press Council.
Yeah, we did talk about this on Hack the other day, and there's been a lot of criticism, Joel, of how the government has handled this issue. And you reported to have said in caucus yesterday that the government hasn't handled this well, that you agree with this criticism. Is the Prime Minister to blame here? Well,
I absolutely agree that the process could have been better, and the process needs to be quite perfect in a hung parliament where you've got to capture the imagination and the support of the crossbench MPs as well. So, yeah, process could have been much better.
Well, the Prime Minister's the one who heads up that process. Is she the one to blame?
Well, I think there's collective responsibility for process. And the other issue, of course, is what I describe as the narrative. We find ourselves in a war with the media organisation over what I think are some quite complex and even vague to some people concepts and issues like diversity, etc., when really I think we should be having a conversation about our determination to protect those people, those innocent victims of occasional excesses on the part of our media organisations.
This is the problem, isn't it? That it's not the issue that is the story, it's the process that's become the story. Why? How did that get so out of hand? Why has that become the story?
Well, again, I can only say that I suspect it's a function of the hung parliament. Everything you do in a hung parliament is 10 times harder than it is in a normal parliament where one party enjoys a majority. So right throughout the course of the last 2 years...
because we didn't see this legislation until a few days ago. Minister Stephen Conroy, the Communications Minister, wanted it passed by Tuesday night. Why did he rush it like that? And do you think he was incorrect to do so?
Well, you'd have to put that question to him. But, when the Finkelstein and convergent reviews were released, that's the bodies, the inquiries that made a range of recommendations, there was a hell of a lot of opposition to them. For example, Finkelstein wanted a public regulator for our newspapers, publicly funded, publicly run, and we've stepped down from that. We realised that we weren't going to get that through, and we've compromised with another self-regulatory model. Now, getting to those compromises takes time, and now we're about to finish up this week, and we don't meet again now until the budget, and then it's only a week, and then, of course, there aren't many weeks left until we get to the September 14 date.
This is what I want to get to, because the whole point about the leadership speculation is that it has been whipped up by the failure of these media reforms to get support. You said earlier today, Joel, that it's silly to pretend that nothing is going on. So tell us, what's going on, Joel? Is there any rumour? Is there any truth to this rumour behind the leadership speculation?
Well, what I said earlier today is that it's just silly to try to pretend there isn't an issue swirling around Parliament House when it's on the front page of every newspaper, and the newspapers are quoting, unnamed Labor sources, unnamed Labor MPs, and your audience is predominantly your audience is predominantly young, and we need to start setting the example. We want people to have respect for and confidence in our members of Parliament, and I, for one, won't go on television or radio saying or pretending there's nothing going on when it's so obvious something's going on.
Well, what is going on? Tell us, Joe, are the numbers being counted or not?
No, there are no numbers being counted, but we're 6 months out from an election. The party's tracking on its primary vote at around 30, 31, 32%. If that occurred on an election day, we would be pretty much wiped out as a party. So people are starting to talk about that as we inch closer and closer to an election. And, of course, we have a date now, so people know exactly when it's going to occur. So that causes chatter amongst the caucus as members reflect on their respective fates. And unfortunately, that chatter starts to make its
But
way
is it
into the
true?
newspapers.
Joel, we know you're a Rudd man. We all know that. Tell us, what are his
Could
numbers
almost
like?
turn that into a song, Safe, couldn't you?
I could. What are his numbers like? Have they improved since the last time he tried this?
Well, I don't know what his numbers are like because no one's formally counting. People are
What
just
about
speculating. You know, the media, of course, is taking the chatter and turning it into a full-blown leadership contest. And there is no
You're the one who
full-blown
told us that
leadership.
there's something going on, Joel.
Yeah, well, and I just explained, Safe, there's something going on. MPs are talking to one another about the state of the party, the state of our position in the polls, an election looming, and, what we're going to do about making ourselves more competitive.
Joel, during question time, you hardly stayed in your seat. We were watching. You were walking around talking to a lot of
You're
MPs.
stalking me, Safe.
I am. And you left the chamber with Kevin Rudd. What were you talking about to those MPs? What were you talking
Did I leave
about?
Did I leave the chamber with Kevin
Yeah,
Rudd?
he was just a metre behind you.
Oh, well, hang on. Let's get the technicalities of this correct. I'm not sure that I did
so these
leave with him.
conversations you tell us, this fact that something's going on, what are the kind of conversations you're having?
Well, I'm referring to the conversation of others and people chattering about. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but people chattering about our prospects at the next election, an election that's looming closer and closer. And unfortunately, we've been stuck. On our primary vote, it's been stuck in the low 30s for 2 years now. And it's normal for people, particularly members of parliament in relatively marginal seats, to start talking about what in the hell they're going to do to save their seats.
So, seeing as the numbers are that bad, do you still think that Julia Gillard is the best person to lead Labor to the next election?
The Prime Minister maintains my support and will continue to maintain my support while ever the majority of the party believes she's the best placed person to lead us to the next election.
Well, because last year on Q&A, Joel, you did say if leaders remain unpopular long enough, they will inevitably stop leading the party. Do you feel that time has come for the Prime Minister?
And that comment caused a lot of fuss.
Yes or a no?
Hang on, Soph, hang on. That comment caused a lot of fuss at the time. But I was just stating an absolute fact, wasn't I? That inevitably, if leaders stay unpopular long enough, they won't lead the party. You can't lead, and no one leads the party forever.
So?
So what was the question again, Soph?
Well, do you think that she is still the best person, and do you think that moment has come when you said it will become inevitable? Is that moment now? Is it going to be this week?
Well, there's no suggestion that people are seriously challenging the idea that Julia Gillard should lead us to the next election.
Joel Fitzgibbon, thank you very much for coming on Triple J.
That's a pleasure, Soph.
Austin?